Good evening. It's quite late, I understand. I'll try to be as crisp as possible. I couldn't resist a couple of reactions. One, this 45,000 crores and other heavy revenue which is talked about and inflation impact. Yes, there is definitely a possible inflation impact, which is normal. But the projections can go haywire because the assumption is 7.5% GDP growth. The entire calculations are based on the GDP achieving a 7.5% level, which itself is extremely unlikely. And as somebody pointed out, with the pressure of fiscal deficit, it is not going to be 5.1. 5.1 is what is talked about. It is not going to be 5.1. It will be much, much, much higher. And the fact that growth is not happening, we will be pushing ourselves into further recession. And secondly, today we are in a market where it may not be so simple and easy to pass on the duty to the customer. There are days where you can pass on duty, but today we are in a very different competitive market. There are certain sectors where duty will be duly passed on, but in certain sectors you may end up bearing the impact of this particular duty. And as he said rightly, I don't think government is of the view that recession is gone and therefore the industry can afford to pay. Government has taken industry for granted that you better pay. I don't think it's a signal that recession is gone. India has no way out of recession. I mean, most of your businessmen, you will know what is happening. And if you look at the growth sectors of industry versus agriculture and services, you will find industry is flat. There is no growth at all. The mopping up is through agriculture, and that totally goes to Gujarat and a couple of other states which have averaged a significant agriculture. That's one reaction. Second reaction, since sitting as part of the panel, I have to react. How much ever draconian the law is, how much ever it infringes into the position of the SSC, I think SSCs should not succumb to the pressure of listening to the officer. We are all honest citizens, we pay our taxes, so the easier solution is to succumb to the pressure. Legally, there are courts still to the rescue, so courts do interfere, take their own time, but courts success. This is my personal view. I have always been believing this principle. So I thought I will endorse it since I am also sitting as part of the panel. Now, coming back to my topics, which is service tax. Look at the statement of the Finance Minister. Economic policy, as in medical treatment, often requires us to do something which in the short run may be painful but is good for us in the long run. As Hamlet says, I must be cruel, only to be kind. Budget 2012 will be cruel, budget 2013 will be kind. In comparison, that is what the meaning. As lawyers, we read between the lines. So the budget 2013 has to be necessarily kind because last budget, as Bhanu was mentioning somewhere, there is a last budget before the elections. And therefore it will be a very kind budget, lot to fill up every possible sector, money doled out like anything, bonds, whatever format issued, all in kind also, goodies also, everything is possible because it's a possible mop-up budget. That is why 2012, whatever has to be done, in one stroke it has been done. As he rightly said, is one of the highest regressive taxing budgets. We have analyzed budgets all these years. We have never come across one product where from direct tax front they hit you from all sides, kill as many judgments as possible, taken as money as much as possible from various segments, and also from indirect tax, not leaving anything, excise, customs, service tax, wherever you go, you see severe mop-up. And not even do the amendment for CST Act to bring ATF into declared goods. Okay, there is a significant amount of the flavor, as you can see, is mobilization of money. These are the numbers which are expected. That's what Mukherjee always says. Mr. Mukherjee says, we have the numbers. Yes, he has the numbers. Service tax is going to go from 95,000 crores to 1,24,000 crores. So this at least is possible. Excise, I have my full doubts because of the GDP impact, but services are always growing. Services never shown any sort of slack. So that's a huge jump, quantum jump. And what happens? Every fellow is going to charge you service tax. Every fellow will be, who is not in the negative list, will charge you service tax. And let us say you are a manufacturer, you can't avail credit. Because your credit restriction has already been completely curtailed last year. You are forced to avail credits by proving it as participating in manufacture. Your setting up is gone. Major items are gone. Your business concept is gone. Therefore, a manufacturer keeps on getting bills from every single service provider charging service tax at 12% and not able to take Zenvat credit. Cost simply goes up. And when his cost goes up, he has to naturally increase his price of whatever he is producing. And if he increases price to cover this cost, his further excise liability increases, and ultimately to all of us, it's going to hit us in a very big way. In fact, we have made representation from various chambers. We made a point saying that bring negative list if you want, along with SENVAT liberalization. You have to ensure that every service tax is available as a credit. If you don't do that, don't bring negative list. Bring it along with GST. But they heard the first part only, and they've decided to bring the negative list. Corporation tax. Shifter. I will skip all this because excise is already covered. There are a lot of nullification excise here also. I'm coming to service tax. 10 to 12 from 1/4/2012. Very cleverly done. Not many were aware of it. They were all thinking only when the act comes in force, only it is notified. 10 has become 12 from 1/4/2012. Please be ready for it. Works contract compounding increased from 4.12% to 4.94 effectively. That is again from 1/4/2012. Minor changes. Partnership firm now includes an LLP. Invoice that 35 days has come instead of 14 days. Banking is 45 days. These are all very simple points. I'll just focus on this point. Let us take point of taxation rules. When point of taxation rules came in 2011, there was a lot of objection from the professional community. Biggest objection was chartered accountants. Lawyers were not even part of it. Some lawyers, of course, lawyers like me and other corporate lawyers and tax lawyers have objected saying because they were all hit by it. Many of the civil lawyers and criminal lawyers were not even bothered about the fact that service tax was coming because they were not even aware that there's a bill. In fact, one senior friend of mine said that, why should I worry? Per client 10 lakh I don't charge. He thought exemption is per client. So the professionals like us who are in this field, we joined with the auditors. All of us did a huge email campaign. VASC took the lead. It was a super campaign. And the campaign worked and they gave the exception. So it can't be nice just to give to chartered accountants. Therefore, chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, lawyers, architects, engineers, consulting engineers, set of people they were given. Whereby they had the choice of paying service tax based on receipt. Now, peculiarly, that Rule 7 is getting substituted with another format. Instead, there is another amendment in the place, the particular service tax rules, providing this. In respect of individuals, firms whose value of services from multiple locations is rupees 50 lakhs or less in the previous financial year, option available to pay tax up to 50 lakhs in the current year based on receipt of payment. The TRU circular seems to suggest that there is no necessity for the old version of Rule 7 because the specified services are brought into the service tax rules. But if you read the service tax rules, you don't get that impression. You get an impression as a generalized version of individual firms that the 50 lakh quantum is correct. So we'll have to see whether there is one more amendment as a corrigendum which is creeping in, or this is the law which you have to live with, whereby all individuals and firms, irrespective of the categorization of architects or advocates or specified firms, are getting into this 50 lakhs limit. Where last year they have not crossed 50 lakhs, they can continue to receive base till they cross 50 lakhs in the current year. This point is interesting. Earlier there was this limit of adjustment of service tax. Now they are saying no limits. You can adjust whatever you want. No problem. But it must not be on account of interpretation of law, taxability, classification, valuation, applicability of exemption rules. Where another again. Okay, your excess payment would be only because of these reasons. Double 1 crore, 10 crores you pay service tax. No, extra or 0 code. You are so completely lost in Pranam Mukherjee's budget that you add one more zero and pay it out. That's probably a reason. These are all minor running out of time. I'll skip it. Airlines. Is it a relief or not a relief? We'll have to wait and see. Originally, the policy of import of ATF came in. So air turbine fuel can be imported directly, so that all the airlines are complaining about sales tax. Now what are they complaining about? They are complaining about VAT being at a very high rate, and the central government says you import directly, so that VAT is not there. You think state governments are going to keep quiet? State legislators have their own way of working. State legislators have put entry tax on different kinds of commodities at every point of time. Municipalities have attempted to octroi at different points of time. Even though the entry tax law is pending in Supreme Court, I am sure one state government or other is going to respond by saying that after it is imported and it enters the airport, it is entry. There are the ways of doing it, because Kerala tried to even tax goods which were imported to Kerala. Then the Fraser case came and said, Father Fraser came, said that it's a customs point, you can't put entry tax. So what is entry can be an interpretation. Octroi in municipality in Maharashtra is quite wide. It encompasses even imported goods. So the new provision says service tax is on 40% of the value of the taxable service. So all this 150 rupees per journey and all goes in. So whatever was worrying Kingfisher was worried about service tax. Jet Airways 69 crores due. These are all 69 crores based on this 150 rupees service tax. And the 69 crores also they were not in a position to pay, and service tax was almost threatening to freeze the bank accounts of Jet. See, airline business is a very tough business. 2-3 days your bank accounts are frozen, you are finished. They operate on pathetic margins. There is no margin most of the time, the negative margin. So they operate in such conditions that cash flows are based on tickets. In fact, Kingfisher, I feel sorry, because if you cancel 20 flights, your next 30 flight tickets are also cancelled. So it's a cycle which they've got into. Of course, why they got into is a different story. But once they've got into it, it's very difficult to come out that particular story. And aircraft rental is $300,000 per month. ATF is so costly, pilots are so costly. It's a very peculiar business where, in fact, the joke in airlines is that if you want to become a millionaire, then you must first be a billionaire. Then start an airline business, you'll become a millionaire. So that is the